Davis Man with Olympus Reptiles, and I'm back. I know I missed a few weeks there, but I am back and I'm ready to rock. And we decided to kind of start a new series here. So we're going to show you, which I guess I just told Kurt let's film two, and you can pick your favorite to be first. I guess that's screwed up now. This is going to be the first one. And we're going to kind of go over different morphs. People ask me about morph identification and things like that. And there's a lot of crap that there's people way better identifying than I am. But we're going to go over individual morphs that we have a lot of to show you some things on how to identify that morph, for one. Also, what it does in combos, how it looks, some of the things you can do with it, and go from there. So we're going to start with probably what I consider to be one of the most basic of basic morphs. Basic is kind of a rough word, but it's a word a lot of people use. The reason it's a rough word is I think it kind of almost sounds like you're devaluing the animal when you say, oh, it's just basic. Makes it like there's some advanced morph out there. But it is one of the oldest morphs that's out there. You know, but just like anything, when it was new, it was selling for a lot of money, but now it can be found for very little money. It's a morph I personally love. I think it improves almost everything it touches. And again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, so you may not like it as much as I do. But without further ado, why don't we show you one of these morphs? Okay, you're not breeding right now. Oh, come here, girly. And this is a big pastel. Now this is a pastel that happens to be het for exanthic, but she presents like a pastel. She's laying on her side right now because she's been breeding, and we're hoping she's going to throw us a clutch of eggs again this year. She's also actually het exanthic, but that's not going to show up at all. So what we're really focused on is the pastel. Now, the best way I think to identify a morph, especially when you're looking at cameras, and cameras don't always show the color the human eye is going to show, is to compare it to a known, right? If you compare something to a known commodity, it helps you go, oh, now I see the difference. So now all I got to do is find a known commodity. There you are. And this is our big normal girl. So these are both adult breeding females. So let's take a few looks. One of the first things you're going to notice is the overall color is vastly different. This is much brighter than this. There's no getting around it. The head blushing is also quite different. Tell you what, Kurt, I'm going to move this back here so you get a little bit better light on these guys. There you go. So you can see the difference in the head blushing. And then the pattern. You know, there's a lot of pattern variations in all snakes, so that's not always something that's easy to see. You know, some of them will have more alien heads than others. But if you look, one thing I always notice on the pastels is the side. You can really see how much that different, not want to call it flaming, it's right in here. It's coming up the sides. Flaming would be in the black. Some pastels do have a good amount of flaming, and you'll also see a lot of, oh, I didn't mean to scare you, girl, blushing. And the difference in flaming and blushing when we talk is this here would be blushing. Flaming would be where it's on the side. But you can see that's blushed out. The normal doesn't carry as much blushing. So that's some basic differences on one of these larger snakes on the pastel. Let me put this pastel up. Come here, baby girl. Yeah, you gonna do me good work this year? I hope so. They never like being messed with during the middle of breeding season. Let me see, and I don't even know if I have a straight up pastel. Kurt, do we have a straight pastel right now?
We have those pastel likes.
Pastel likes? Right, but I'm talking young, talking babies here. Because one thing about pastel is you always hear about snakes changing as they age. Pastels are probably one of the biggest examples of that, I think, that really just change colors. But I think we don't have any baby pastels right now. I'm pretty sure they're all been shipped out, which sucks. But I can show you one that we do still have. That pastel being what it is. Oh, you need a bath. You got some stuck shed. Stuck sheds do happen. It's got a little bit of retained shed. Not too bad. We'll get that off there. But if you look at this, you can really see this is a super pastel. How you can tell is how crazy the blushing is. You can really see that, and it's just brighter. And the head is definitely more blushed. So we'll have to give that snake a bath, get that little bit of retained shed off. But you can kind of get a view of it there. So that would be how a super pastel looks. Now, a super pastel, everybody gets hung up when we start talking genetics. And they're like, oh, supers and normal or non-supers. Throw it all out the window. I hate the term super. I use it because it's an industry term. That is a homozygous pastel. The normal pastel I showed you is a heterozygous pastel. It's all het and homo, people. Heterozygous is a pastel. Homozygous would be a super pastel. What are some things it can do in combos? This is, of course, and she just shed. Oh, you're looking good. This is a big adult female bumblebee. Now this is a 2-gene combo. This is a pastel spider. Come on up here. So you can really see how that works and how bright those colors are when you make a bumblebee. Now, this is one of the first combos that ever really was done on a 2-gene basis, would be these guys right here. So again, people always talk about, oh, breeding these combos for money. You're not going to make a ton of money with a bumblebee combo, but I make them every year because, well, honestly, they're breathtaking. See if you can keep her up there for a minute, Kurt. She's going to roam. You're going to try to light me up. Come here. And this is why. When you get a baby, you can really see how much brighter the color is. Oh, I know. You're just all pissed off at the world, wanting to run. So you can see how that pastel has browned out over the years versus this one, which is a straight up young bumblebee baby. So the colors are really nice. One thing, watch this. This is going to be cool. Look, I flipped the snake over. Oh, crap. It flipped back over. Let me try it again. I'm flipping the snake over. Oh, crap. It flipped back over. What's going on? Somebody told me if it has a spider, I can't do that. It can't right itself. Okay, we're going to try one more time. Kurt, what do you think is going to happen? Is it going to right itself? Is it going to right itself? I can't even flip it over. Oh, my God. Okay, so apparently some spiders, like 99% of them, can right themselves just fine. And just a little sneak peek, there will be a full video on that coming from us soon with opinions on the spider gene from, I don't know, somebody that breeds and keeps a lot of spiders. Just gonna throw that out there. But I love it. Look at the head on these bumblebees. Really cool snake. Awesome. And you can see this thing too is doing just fine. But that pastel makes everything better on these. Let's keep on looking at a few things because that is just a single gene. Let me show you this girl here. Maybe. Oh! Well, okay. We're going to try to show you something. Oh, really careful. Okay, there's two things going on in here that brings up the points of pastel. So, I want to show you those. This is a killer bee as an adult. So this is a super pastel again, homozygous pastel spider. And this little one here, this is a lemon blast. So it's actually a pastel pinstripe. Now this actually happens to be a scaleless head, but it's really not going to change any of the look there. This will be pretty typical of what you're looking for in a lemon blast. And the reason I had to leave them in there is, as you can see, we're doing the nasty. So what we're shooting for in that pairing is, again, pastel improves everything. Of course, the best thing we can make out of there would be a killer spinner blast scaleless head. And since we're talking pastel, let's talk about what you can do in those pairings with that. So in this particular pairing, using that killer bee, that is a homozygous pastel spider, and using that lemon blast, that is a heterozygous pastel pinstripe. Let's just delete the pinstripe and spider genes. We're not going to care about them. But when we have that homozygous pastel breeding to a heterozygous pastel, that homozygous pastel, whether it passes on, no matter what it passes on for genes, will pass on pastel every time. So every baby in that clutch will get pastel. This one will pass on pastel half the time. So every, if we had 10 babies, let's say, the odds would say 5 of them would be pastel and 5 of them would be super pastel. Can it be 9 and 1 or 10 and none? Yeah, absolutely it can. It's a roll of the dice, each individual egg. But because you're working with that homozygous, you're going to get at least pastel in each one. Now, a homozygous animal can never reproduce itself. So if I bred that to a normal, I would make no super pastels or homozygous pastels, but I'd make all heterozygous pastels. So let's show you a few things really quick. And again, I think comparing to a known normal is the best way to do it. How are you doing, girly? This is a pinstripe. Okay, so you can see how dark and chocolatey. This was originally brought in the country, not this one, but this was originally started by BHB Reptiles, the pinstripe was. So they're really kind of cool. I gotta dig through my box of tricks here. You're in shed. You're no good. You just shed. Yay. And this is adding Pinstripe, Pastel. You know, I mean, you got a couple genes going on there, obviously, but you can see that that Pastel, in this case, Pastel Lesser Pin, I believe, is what we have rocking in there. To double check my records, it's just they're just beautiful. So bringing in that Pastel does a ton. Let me put this one up. Speaking of that lesser, let's try to show you a few things with that. We'll leave that one out while we got it. Nope, not you. Okay, I can show you. So this, two snakes in here. Again, they were a breeding pair, but they're done breeding. So we'll go ahead and pull all these out because they both also have Pastel in, or no, they both don't. I take that back. This is a lesser Pastel as an adult. This is a straight lesser. So you can really see the Pastel influence in here. It's just lightening everything, right? And of course, then when you add Pinstripe in it, it gets even better. So this kind of gives you building blocks. If you had a lesser versus a lesser Pastel, add in another kicker gene and what you can get. Now, obviously, this is a baby, so it's going to brown a little bit. But these two both being adults, you get a really good idea of kind of what we're working with and kind of what that gene can do when you add stuff to it. Don't let him escape, Kurt. He hates when I get multiple snakes. Now we're hoping this one is pregnant from this one this year. Would not be the first time. I'm going to put you back in your normal house. There you are. Put you back alone. Let's take a peek at her while we got her out. And I got some more work to do. Get in there. She's never let me down yet. Okay. So that covers a lot of Pastel, but I got one more thing I want to show you, and that is... Hey, you look like you want to eat my face. Let's not eat my face. This guy here. And some of these snakes will be featured in multiple videos because of the simple fact that they almost have to be to really get the point across of what we're trying to show. Look, you're going in the shed. So this is a straight up Axanthic male. And of course, you're going to be like, well, it looks like a normal. So, back to the difference. So Axanthic strips out the yellow. When you put those two together, you can really see the difference in the color. Hopefully the camera's picking up how the blacks are darker, and this is a completely different shade. You can really tell it in the head, especially the neck stripes. So you can see what Axanthic does. See that? Oh. Now, when you put the Axanthic with the Pastel, because again, that Pastel is going to just brighten everything, right? This is what you get right here. How cool is that? So I really like the Axanthic Pastels. One of my favorite snakes out there are Axanthic Pastels. But let's kick this up a couple notches. So when you start working with this Pastel gene and playing around, and again, well, the Pastel by itself isn't a very expensive morph. It makes things better. You know, if you're all about money, Pastel isn't something you want to play with. But if you really like making pretty snakes, I think you have to have it. So here we have, this is what I'd call like a sub-adult. She's not breeding age yet. Pastel Axanthic. This is a super Pastel Axanthic I produced last year. And you can see how gorgeous that is and how light that is. So by getting that super in there, lighting the colors, you know, that Pastel is what's really going to get us to some of our black and white stuff we really want. Let's show you going another route. Put you back where I get you out. Here. I know, you're like, ah! And that is, she was, or he was, here. This, now you're going to have to use your imagination a little bit because I haven't got to the next step. So this is a Pastel Spider Axanthic. And so you can see that same bumblebee pattern, right? Let me show you it without the Axanthic. So again, here's just a straight Pastel Spider. So this is with Axanthic, without Axanthic, and now you can really see what that Axanthic is doing. Now if I added in one more Pastel gene and this was homozygous, because it's just heterozygous, imagine how much lighter this would be, and it'd get us really close to what we're really after. And if you added like one more kicker gene, say a fire or yellow belly, you're going to be there. So that is what I can think to share about Pastel.
Can we do one more?
One more pastel. What one do you want to do, Kurt?
I want to show them an orange dream and an orange dream pastel.
Oh, we can actually do that. Maybe, as long as they're not breeding.
Well, no,
come here, buddy.
We got both babies, don't we?
We do have both babies, and that would be a better show. I've seen it. Now there, you can see, because I got him out, and he's been moving around with a lot of other snakes, there's a little bit of the example of wobble. Watch what happens, though. Put him down. It's fine. No issues. He'll move like a normal snake and do everything just fine. Looking for going to hide. But I didn't want to share that when I saw it, just so you guys would know it does exist, but what it usually really is. Again, whole nother video, whole nother day. All right, Kurt, I'm going to put you on the spot for morph identification today. The reason I'm doing that to poor Kurt is these are one of Kurt's projects he really wanted to work. So what is what? And then tell me about it. It's all you, baby.
Well, you can talk about it.
Can you tell me which one's the difference? This is a little more subtle.
This one is Orange Dream and Orange Dream Pastel.
That's correct. Don't mind the fly. And here's how you're looking. Orange Dream is already going to brighten it. So sometimes when you add pastel, it's not going to do anything overly crazy. Other times it kind of will. In the case of Orange Dream, since you're kind of already getting a lot of that same look, but Kurt is absolutely right, because again, I talked about how pastel comes up on the sides. See the difference there? You can see this comes up more. It's brighter on the sides than there. So you can see that pastel at work. You can also see the pastel at work in the head. So that Orange Dream does have a head stamp. This pastel is much more blushed in the back of the head than that. And then overall, if you look at the blushing, it's just more pronounced. And the color is overall a few shades brighter. So he's absolutely right on which one is which. Good job. I had to put him to the test because this is his project. And I work with these snakes every day. Kurt works with them on mostly film days or when I'm gone. You know, it'd be like throwing me in the rat room and him picking one up and going, so what's this? I'd be like, But since it's his project, I figured he'd bust it, and he did. All right, that covers what I can think to talk about on pastel. We're going to flip over to our Patreon, do a video for those guys, and on there, we're going to talk about how pastel will affect your breeding business. Thanks for watching. See you next week.